Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Purple Sector podcast, where today we're going to be talking about the riveting British Grand Prix qualifying. That's right, it was a wet to dry qualifying, and it was amazing from the start to the end. So much going on throughout the field. What did you make of it?
Well, what a qualifying it was, but who is on the front row? Lando Norris is on the front row,
We don't
and
need to talk about the other drivers.
Oscar Piastri in P3, and Verstappen is in first.
And that's coming
Obviously,
from a Red Bull fan.
yeah, that's coming from a Red Bull fan. I was so annoyed when Verstappen came over the line and just pipped Lando to the pole position. I was going crazy when Lando took provisional pole.
Yeah, you could hear the fans absolutely crazy. And
Those
that's not.
those McLarens are rapid. You
Yeah.
can see it. Like it was in FP1, FP2, not so much in FP3, but they are rapid.
And then it really did show through in qualifying. But they're not the other British team that were absolutely rapid today, unlike usual, because we had Williams, Alexander Albon
Yeah.
in Q3, and Logan Sargent almost making it through to the final qualifying session. But unfortunately, he did have a lap time deleted, which kind of ruined his chances. But yeah, it was just through and through absolutely brilliant from Williams and Lando Norris. And Lando even joked afterwards that Verstappen ruined everything. And to be honest, today he kind of did. I don't think any of us were really thrilled with what happened at the end. But brilliant. Just McLaren, what a comeback after the horrible, torrid start to the season that they had. Remember when we were talking about them being worse than the Williams,
Yeah, yeah.
and now they're up there, and it really is good to see. And hopefully, Lando can have a brilliant race tomorrow, as the only Brit in the top five actually, which is a bit disappointing since Russell and Hamilton are in P6 and 7. But yeah, I'm absolutely thrilled with the Norris front row.
This
What
is
about you?
quite a weird front. This is quite a weird top 10. It's Red Bull, then a McLaren, then Ferrari, and then Mercedes, which is quite funny. Alex Albon got into P8, which is heroic. George Russell and Lewis Hamilton, not so much. They didn't do as well as they probably should with this new car. The Ferraris did well though. Yeah, what were your thoughts about the Ferraris?
Well, I think they went a little under the radar today.
Yeah.
They weren't up there at the top, but they weren't down there at the bottom either. They were just in the middle, solid qualifying for them, P4 and P5, Leclerc ahead of Sainz. But there's something else that we probably need to talk about and address it. Sergio Perez. What is going on with this man?
I do not know.
P16 out in Q1. Can't even get my words out. Absolutely horrendous from Sergio Perez. Whilst his teammate is going onto the front row, not just the front row, onto pole position by a quarter of a second. He's down there in P16, just doing literally nothing. And yeah,
He didn't even set he set the lap the first, and I think some of the blame does come onto Red Bull because he was the first man to cross the line, and he did not have any time to set another lap. And even if he did, his battery wouldn't have been charged or anything like that, so he wouldn't have set a very good last lap. But
yeah.
yeah, it was also bad on Red Bull's part because he did take provisional pole, obviously, in that Red Bull, but it just wasn't good enough. He took provisional pole, but it wasn't good enough.
How do you take pole in
I mean,
Q1?
what am I saying? He went P1, but it wasn't good enough.
No, because the problem was the
Yeah.
chap was ramping up every single second. Every millisecond, he was getting faster and faster. And he was the first to cross the finish line before the checkered flag even fell. And it just ruined his chances. But I don't even know if he would have made it through, even if he had crossed, been able to get the lap done in a better window. It was just all in. It was just, it was just absolutely dismal. And I think that's his fifth race in a row or something without a Q3 appearance.
Yeah, something like that because he has got out in Q1 quite a few times. I mean,
And Q2.
Monaco was he was 15th. Trying to remember
Austria, he was
Austria.
out last
Yeah.
weekend as well. And there have just been so many instances. And the question is, when do Red Bull think that it's too much? They need to get rid of him. But thing is, I don't think they need to. Verstappen is single-handedly. He's got enough points to keep them on top of the pile in the constructors. That is crazy.
You know some of the replies on so basically F1 have tweeted the qualifying classification, and about the top like 6 or 7 tweets are all what is going on with Perez. I mean, what is going on with this season?
Yeah, it's just been absolutely horrible for Perez. But moving on to even worse subjects, actually. Kevin Magnussen unfortunately had a his car broke down, just completely went. He was P20, and another one, another driver that happened to is Valtteri Bottas, right at the end of Q1. You know, it was just it was it was
Yeah.
just unlucky, I guess, because Bottas, he set a good lap to be able to get into Q2, and then after he set the lap, it was just engine conked out, so he was done. And yeah,
Don't you mean Magnussen?
no, for Magnussen did it before he even got like any good laps in. Bottas got into Q2, but then his engine went
All
pop.
right.
And so then looking at who do you want to look at next?
I'd say the Mercedes. Like
Yeah, yeah.
they keep on going on about these new upgrades and how they're gonna bring them back to the front. They they just aren't.
Well, no, no, I want to combat that actually. Because I'm a Mercedes fan. You're saying that, but then in the first FP3, FP1 to FP3, they didn't look competitive at all, and then into going into qualifying, they were just randomly just at the top, doing really well, which you wouldn't really expect from the Mercedes. Like you were saying, you were saying that they were hyping it all up, but to be honest, they weren't actually doing that well in the practice sessions, anyways. And then in qualifying, I think it was a big surprise that even in Q3, Lewis Hamilton, after the first set of runs, um, he was P2, not far behind Verstappen, and unfortunately, that didn't really come to fruition. Come the last few laps in qualifying, because unfortunately, he was out qualified not only by his teammate, but by a lot of the field as well, by the Ferraris, by the two McLarens, and the Red Bull. So yeah, unfortunate for Lewis, but Russell P6. I think he's another driver that maybe went under the radar a bit, but he did set some really good laps. Not just in Q3, but in Q1 as Q2 as well. His laps weren't actually that bad at all. But what did you make of the Mercedes?
I think it's not amazing from them. I think they can do better. I think all last race, Hamilton was going on about, just how slow the car was, how it didn't have a wide enough turning circle, and Toto Wolff even came on the radar. I know you didn't watch the race much, but he did
Yeah, I
actually.
wasn't here.
Yeah, he did come on to the radio to say, just put your head down, just carry on driving, and he kept on saying, I just can't drive this car. So there are problems with Mercedes. Hamilton did go off at Stowe, is it?
Yeah, in Q1 he had a
Yeah,
huge spin at Store
yeah,
Corner,
just about kept
and
the
he was
wheels
so yeah he
revolving.
was so lucky to be able to keep that on. My heart was in my mouth at that moment, but luckily he was able to keep going. And P7 not ideal. He's got the most wins at Silverstone. I was kind of hoping he would add to that tally, make it 9 wins. But yeah, I can't really see anything happening from here. Can you?
No, I think they might just, stay where they are or drop down.
But then saying that, the McLarens this year have shown some amazing qualifying pace, especially in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
last few races.
If and
But
have
then, yeah,
absolutely terrible luck. Like
in the
Lando
race,
Norris, how many times has he started in the
in
top
the top,
three and
yeah,
then just dropped down?
like especially in the sprint race in Austria,
Yeah,
fell down at turn three, I believe. I remember that he fell down so far, and then in Spain, remember he hit the back of
yeah, yeah.
Hamilton's car, and he was in P3 for that race, and then that ended up sending him down to P20 because he had to pit, and then now a P2. We're getting all hyped up and hoping that they could do something, but personally, I'm not really too I'm not getting too ahead of myself, even though I do like Lando Norris a lot. I don't really think that they're going to be scoring a podium. So there is still a chance there for the Mercedes, but it's a very slim one.
Yeah.
Well, then there's someone else I want to know about. The Aston Martins. Where has their pace gone in the last few races?
Mm.
They used to be P2, and P2 for Fernando comfortably, but now, you know, he would be bitterly disappointed with that word, Alonso. Yeah, P9, I think he qualified. It was really, really poor from him. And
I do remember some races back. I think maybe after Monaco, is it, where Alonso said that that would be the last. Not Monaco. It was the race maybe after Monaco, where he said that it would be the last race without a podium. Um, but that definitely hasn't happened. It's been a big drop off of pace, and yeah, I think Williams did really really well. So did Aston Martin. Yeah, Lance Stroll 12th didn't manage to out qualify Aston Martin. Fernando Alonso, I think he's done that in that last two races. Also Kevin Magnussen. That was really weird. Because he just went over in cops just about went over the sausage, not cobs, store, just went over the sausage curb, and his engine just died. And you could literally just hear nothing but just like the revolving of the wheels just as he went over the gravel trap. There was no engine at all. And it was quite a weird way that he stopped. And he couldn't get across the racing line because if you do that and you stop in the middle of the racing line, you're putting every single other driver in danger. So he didn't come across. He just stayed. That's what Crofty was saying. So that's why he just stayed. But his engine just died and he was out.
There were a couple of infringements as well,
Yeah, yeah.
and there was a major one with Esteban Ocon. P13, he ended up finishing, and he wasn't able to make it through to Q3. And I think a lot of that is because of this thing this infringement coming into the Vale chicane, because he was, he's gonna go set his lap, and then he tried to, I think, he wanted some clean air, so he tried to overtake Lance Stroll, I think it was, and they had like a huge tussle going into the final corner. To set their laps, and he ended up going into over the he ended up cutting the corner and going into the gravel.
Didn't Verstappen and Hamilton do that?
Yeah, no, but I don't think either of them went into the gravel. He didn't
Alright.
compromise him too much. That was on the outlap, and it's Ocon. I think that compromised him really badly, and he was really annoyed, frustrated over the radio as well. So yeah,
Alright.
I think that's one of the reasons that he was out, because it was a bit of a surprise to me. He's quite a fast driver. He's quite fast. He's
Yeah,
been
yeah.
showing some good form.
Q3 in Monaco.
Yeah, Pierre Gasly, his team managed to get through to Q3. So I was a bit surprised, but when we saw that replay, it kind of, it made a bit more sense for why that happened. And then let's move on then, because there is a driver that I want to talk about, Nick De Vries, because there was a moment in Q1 where we were
Oh
getting
yeah.
excited.
Oh yeah.
We were,
He,
because
he,
it was the red flag, wasn't it?
yeah,
It
yeah.
was the red flag for Kevin Magnussen, and he was in P12, and we were thinking the rain is gonna increase, so he could get through to Q2 here, and then it didn't increase. In fact, it decreased, and he was just a sitting duck. There was just no chance for Nick De Vries, and the war continues for him. And for Yuki Tsunoda as well, indeed, because he ended up finishing P17. Poor qualifying for him, and he's going to have to fight his way through the field. And I think that's second race in a row where Yuki has unfortunately dropped out in Q1. But yeah, not great for the Alpha Tauris. Another team that didn't really have a great qualifying is Alfa Romeo, P15 and P18. Again, he's just one of those drivers that sometimes flies under the radar. It was a really poor race from him, qualifying from him. Ended up P18, and Bottas, obviously, we know, had those engine issues. And then, yeah, anyone else you want to talk about?
I think Nick De Vries will be out by the summer break.
Mm.
We know of Red Bull's ruthlessness when it comes to removing drivers. The Pierre Gasly, Alex Albon thing. So Nick really needs to get on with it.
Yeah, he needs to
He
get
needs to
his,
pull his finger
yeah,
out and
pull his
just
boots.
yeah.
And another driver that I do want to talk about actually is Nico Hülkenberg, because he was on the fringes of making it through to Q3, not far behind the tour. I think it was a tenth off. Who came in P10? I think it might have been Gasly. I'm not 100% sure, but unfortunately he didn't make it through to Q3. And yeah, the war continues for Haas. Well, I say that he did get an amazing result last week in Austria, but Kevin Magnussen, he's really fallen off, hasn't he? Last year he came in to replace Mazepin, and he was brilliant against Schumacher, but Mick Schumacher, and I was just falling off a bit. But yeah, any things you want to talk about? Anything else? Final comments?
The Ferraris were good. Oh, and by the way, you were saying that you now know all the corners of Silverstone.
Oh God,
So I'm going to challenge you to recite every single
no.
corner of Silverstone.
Right, fine. So turn one is Abbey.
Yeah.
Then you've got turn two, which is like,
I don't know, so I can't fact check this.
and then you've got like the loop, the one that leads onto Wellington
Yeah.
Straight. Then after that, I think you got,
No, what's that called?
it's called the loop.
Okay.
It's literally called the loop.
Okay.
And then that leads on to what's the corner after that? It goes on to the Wellington Straight.
I think I know this as well. But I've
Wellington
forgotten
Straight,
it.
and then it goes to Luffield, and it goes to Brooklands, and then it goes to Woodcut near the old pit straight onto the Cops
Yeah.
corner. Then Maggots and Beckett's as you go into sector 2. Well, in the middle of the sector 2 actually. And then you got Chapel corner, which leads onto the Hanger Straight, and then it's into the third sector, sorry. And then you got Store corner, which is second to last corner, which is where Hamilton went off. And then you got the Vale chicane, which is right at the end. And then of course you've got the beautiful Hamilton Straight, named after Sir Lewis Hamilton himself. But yeah, that's all from me.
Well done.
And I just want to give a heartfelt congratulations to Oscar Piastri, rookie in P3
Yeah.
for qualifying.
What a qualifying.
Can you imagine a podium tomorrow for that drive for him? You know what?
Uh, it's so preposterous. I don't think I can.
Yeah, yeah. I don't really expect too much from the McLarens, but that would just be amazing. His first British Grand Prix and he's a rookie Australian to be able to get a podium would be amazing. Hopefully, he'll hold out for that, and it's the best chance he's had all season so far. So hopefully that can happen. But now we're gonna go through the full F1 qualifying classification for the 2023 British Grand Prix. So on pole position is Max Verstappen with a brilliant lap of 126.720 in Q3 for pole position. Second is Lando Norris, and third is his teammate Oscar Piastri. P4 is Charles Leclerc, followed by Carlos Sainz, and then is the Mercedes respectively with Russell in sixth and Hamilton in seventh. Alexander Albon in eighth for the Williams. Fernando Alonso with not a great qualifying is in P9, and rounding out the top 10 is Pierre Gasly.
And then Nico Hülkenberg in the Haas, not his best performance this year. Lance Stroll in 12th, even though his teammate Fernando Alonso is in ninth. Esteban Ocon in the Alpine. 14th, Logan Sargent in a Williams that was very fast. Valtteri Bottas in an Alfa Romeo. Sergio Perez very far down in the Red Bull. Yuki Tsunoda in the Alfa Tauri. Zhou Guanyu in the Alfa Romeo. Nick De Vries, really disappointing for him in P19. And Kevin Magnussen in the Haas. His Haas just conked out towards the end of the race. And that is the qualifying classification.
Yeah, well, that rounds out the top 20, the 20 drivers. Why did I say top 20? The 20 drivers, right?
I
Well,
mean, I wish there were more than 20 drivers. It would make Formula One so much more fun.
okay, well, we're going on to completely different subjects now. We don't need to go into that. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. And remember to go head to. No, I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. Sorry. So, sorry. Tomorrow is going to be the British Grand Prix. I'm looking forward to it so much. And we're also going to be having our post race reaction after the race tomorrow. So, yeah, thank you so much for listening. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.